couple of weeks ago, we found out that Obi-Wan was originally supposed to die in The Phantom Menace. George Lucas cut out that scene, but it's such a weird twist that it's not what you think. If you haven't heard anything about it, it's not what you think at all. Now, I have an article here and I want to read it, and let's discuss it afterwards and see what we think. So let me pull this up. It says George Lucas cut a bombshell Star Wars twist from The Phantom Menace. Liam Neeson was going to play the real Obi-Wan Kenobi who died. There's Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Love it or hate it, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is at least widely beloved for its casting of Ewan McGregor as young Obi-Wan Kenobi. A recent interview with Star Wars concept and storyboard artist Ian McCraig via StarWars.com to mark The Phantom Menace's 25th anniversary reveals that George Lucas was originally planning a bombshell twist for the movie. McGregor's Obi-Wan and Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon were originally swapped, meaning Neeson was playing the real Obi-Wan and thus the real Obi-Wan died. For a time, the older Jedi was named Obi-Wan and the young Jedi was named Qui-Gon, McCraig said. It was very poignant that at the end, as Obi-Wan dies and Qui-Gon defeats Darth Maul and stays with his master as he passes away, he not only takes on his master's quest, but he takes on his name. Qui-Gon becomes Obi-Wan. That's why when you see Alec Guinness in A New Hope, he puts his hood down and goes, Obi-Wan. Now that's a name I've not heard, McCraig added, because he's not Obi-Wan, he's Qui-Gon. And right at the end, George changed it. McGregor was always playing the younger version of Alec Guinness, who originated the role of Obi-Wan in 1977's Star Wars A New Hope, but the character's origins were originally going to have a huge shakeup in The Phantom Menace. Having the character actually be Qui-Gon, adopting the name of his late Jedi mentor, would have been one of the biggest Star Wars reveals in the franchise history. Lucas changed course before filming started. McGregor reprised the role of Obi-Wan in two Star Wars sequels, 2002's Attack of the Clones and 2005's Revenge of the Sith. He'd go on to lead the Disney Plus series Obi-Wan Kenobi 2 decades later, and he's been open in interviews when asked about his interests in making a second season, despite the show being originally conceived as a limited series. I really hope we do another, McGregor told British GQ before the finale aired in 2022. If I could do one of these every now and again, I'd just be happy about it. Obi-Wan Kenobi is streaming on Disney Plus. Head over to Star Wars website to read McCaig's interview in its entirety. So what do you think about that? That's really a weird twist to have Ewan McGregor as Qui-Gon and Liam Neeson as Obi-Wan, and then have Ewan so distraught that he drops his name as Qui-Gon Jinn and takes up his cause to train Anakin and then also take his master's name of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think that the part in the article where the guy's saying that's when you see Alec Guinness in A New Hope, he puts his hood down and says Obi-Wan. Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. And I think when he says that they're trying to smush this idea of him being Qui-Gon into that puzzle piece and trying to jam it in there. That's not correct. They had no clue back in 1977 when they made Star Wars that Obi-Wan was Qui-Gon. George Lucas didn't even have that. He just made Star Wars. He had written Star Wars as a standalone, and the only reason he made the next two series was because Star Wars was such a breakout movie. Everybody wanted to see it, and so he was like hustling, trying to write down The Empire Strikes Back. One of the books, Needle in the Mind's Eye, I think it is, was supposed to be the sequel to Star Wars, but they did Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi to make it a trilogy for Star Wars. There was nothing in the script that George Lucas wrote that had anything to do with Qui-Gon Jinn. When Obi-Wan said what he said about not, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time, it's because he'd been in exile for 19 years. They came along with the Obi-Wan's Kenobi series and kind of like skewed the format that he'd been in exile for 19 years and nobody heard or seen from him. But now, according to canon, it was 10 years from the time that the Obi-Wan Kenobi series ended to when A New Hope begins. So Obi-Wan hadn't heard anybody say Obi-Wan Kenobi to him in that amount of time, because everybody just knew him as Old Ben. And Luke shows up with the droids and he's like, they belong to an Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he's like, well, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. And then he says, that's me. Anyway, I think that the guy is full of crap. McKeag, I think he's full of poop and crap, because that's not how it was. George, like I said, George had no clue. Oh, and in the book was called Splinter of the Mind's Eye by Alan Dean Foster. That was supposed to be the sequel to Star Wars, but they decided to scrap it and do Empire Strikes Back, since Star Wars was such a blockbuster movie. So if you haven't heard about Simon Kinberg writing the next 3 movies for Star Wars, he's the one who was tapped by Lucasfilm to come write them. And there's an article I read where the author says that it'll never be done. Do I think it's going to be done? I don't know. Go right here and check out this video and you'll see. Will he do it? Will Lucasfilm let him do it? It's unknown. You'll have to watch the video. Well, if you like my content and you like the video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And remember, the Force will be with you always.